I don't know how he started. You know, the character I know better just from having done a multi-part deep dive series on him was Robert Maxwell. And it's a great case in Ghislaine's father, who some believe introduced Jeffrey to Ghislaine. And he did. Well, that according to one source, but it was also possible that it didn't have. I mean, the timing is crazy from when he died to when Epstein and Ghislaine first flew on the jet. I mean, it was the same. It was some months apart from when she was first on his flight logs and he died. And so was there a handoff or?
I think the question is what's going on right now too. I mean, like all this stuff, obsessing about Epstein and whatever. I mean, obviously everyone wants to know and should know. Like we need to know. On the flip side though, most of the people implicated in this stuff, I mean, this was early 2000s. Like a lot of people are dead now. Like Bill Richardson.
A lot of them.
You know, like
a lot of them
Clinton.
Aren't,
I mean, a lot of them aren't. But you know, similar stuff.
One of them's in the White House. Let's just be honest here, Max.
That's true. But what's going on now? I mean, if this stuff was happening then, there's got to be something else going on now, right? Or not? Or is this like a one-off thing? Where's all that stuff? And what do we know about that? And what's going on there? I mean, that's something to me. It's like a lot of stuff. It's almost, I don't know. To me, just like the main question to me is, if you like looking at it, is what's going on now, what kind of stuff, and what can we uncover right now, given we have so many media platforms. 20 years ago, if someone came forward with a story about what Jeffrey Epstein was doing, it probably wouldn't have gotten out there because powerful people control all the platforms.
Dude, people turned down that story over and over and over and over. Yes, and then the Miami Herald woman, I by the way, emailed her a number of times to try to get an interview.
Julie Brown.
Yes. Yeah. She published it, and it was so dangerous for her. And people since then, they were threatened over and over. The post after he was convicted, then the new wave of journalism, like it. The interviewer of Les Wexner's victims later on, who was, and then one went to like Epstein's Albuquerque ranch or New Mexico ranch. The White House one, you did a great deep dive on this, where it was like, let me get everything I can on Trump's relationship.
Trump's ties with Epstein are way more than people think. You know, like a lot of people like to play him down. Oh, he wasn't like that. They just happen to know each other, pictured together a few times.
You get the Maria Farmer testimony?
Yeah. They were tight. I mean, like they knew each other. They knew each other well. But
doesn't here's the thing. Cuz listen, you can run the tape on my podcast, like even back episode 39 with Mike Spear, where I pointed this stuff out in the first 30 minutes there. I still always looked at Trump and said, there are things, regardless of what you think of him politically, there are good signs for him here related to this case, as in how he cut ties with Epstein, how he was the guy fucking yelling his name on national TV in 2015.
Totally.
Like you have to balance things out, because the thing about Epstein and Maxwell is that they were excellent spies. I hate to say it, but they were excellent spies because they just knew all you had to do was take a picture with someone.
Yeah.
All you had to do was take a picture, and they're poisoned because you're always like, people are going to look at Steven Pinker forever and say, why did you take a picture with Jeffrey Epstein at a lunch table?
We asked him that when we met him.
What did he say? And I like Steven Pinker, but
he said he got very uncomfortable is the first thing. And then he said he could tell he was mad that we asked it, because he's kind of like in his head like this again. And he was like, oh, I always thought he was a bullshitter, and I was told to sit next to him. But he had a few pictures with him. Mm-hmm. And I guess the innocent reading is Epstein loved to be around smart people. He loved to be in the mix. He loved to position himself as a Harvard guy, even though he never graduated from college. He got a job at Dalton School and then Bear Stearns, but that's another story. But he always loved to be in those airs. And so maybe they just rubbed shoulders and Pinker was there and he just saw a rich guy, whatever.
That could have been all it is.
And I think the problem is there were people where it was much more than that. And you make a great point. And also, Trump was the one guy willing to talk to, wasn't it?
Was it Virginia Giuffre's lawyer?
Yes, one of the lawyers where
in 2008, he talked with him.
Exactly.
Brad Richards,
and the lawyer thanked him for it, and said he was the only one.
Check that, Virginia's lawyer, Brad Richards.
For the record, I should also say, I don't know what they're tight, but there's way more of a relationship, documented relationship than a lot of people like to think.
I was shocked myself, and I had done like reading on this, but you did that full, like every single thing we can get on it. What is it that's verifiable?
Who the guy with the black book went to jail? they I can't remember his name. Someone in Epstein's hat, one of the workers there, he's the one who kept the book, and then he's the one who ended up going to jail.
Yeah. Interesting.
It's always the side character. It's like who went to the great financial crisis. The one guy who went to jail was like the Russian quant trader or something. It's always like a fringe character in these major scandals. You need to have some what's the term? Scapegoat. You need a scapegoat.
Yeah. Now what do you guys, in all that you've looked at one by one here, your own opinions, what do you guys think he was?
You know, it's funny. I not to give like the most anticlimactic answer, but I have just. It's kind of like reading, some great Supreme Court cases where you read multiple takes and you find several compelling. I would say that you have to think of it probabilistically because there's no foolproof case for anything. There's likelihoods. There are coincidences that are hard to ignore. I think he became an intelligence asset over time. I think that it helped him escape the hands of justice. There's always that quote attributed to Alex Acosta in the Florida case.
To intelligence.
Yeah, he belonged to intelligence. That's why he was told to back off and give him the friendliest plea deal in history. I don't know how he started. You know, the character I know better just from having done a multi-part deep dive series on him was Robert Maxwell. And it's a great case in Ghislaine's father, who some believe introduced Jeffrey to Ghislaine, and he did. Well, that according to one source, but it was also possible that it didn't have. I mean, the timing is crazy from when he died to when Epstein and Ghislaine first flew on the jet. I mean, it was the same. It was some months apart from when she was first on his flight logs and he died. And so was there a handoff, or was it that in the criminal underworld, of which they both had a ton of connections by this point, they knew Jeffrey was an expert at hiding monies offshores, having done work for Stephen Hoffenberg,
yeah,
the Ponzi scheme, who Epstein worked with and then somehow got off scot-free. So it's likely he was an asset. I do think he an agent. I doubt it. He just seemed too all over the place. I think he probably became an asset for which governments. I think the Wi-Fi just got cut off, but we got. You know what's interesting about Robert Maxwell though is he had.
Yeah, where was he buried?
It's Holy Hill, but he was not given the proper overseas burial that Bin Laden got. But
he wasn't.
He.
Well, they tried to, and then they pulled his body out.
But he had ties to MI6, the KGB, and Mossad, and the CIA.
Almost certainly, yeah.
Almost certainly. He certainly did to the KGB.
He's a terrible guy. He's one of the greatest spies to ever live.
Yeah, and he was and by the end of his life, the greatest cause, philanthropically and otherwise, was Israel toward the end of his. Now, the thing that's debated, and the funny thing is, though, is you want to put on tinfoil hat. Sometimes you got to put on the tinfoil hat to the people who make the claims. So there were a couple people who sort of became edgelords who alleged that he was in Mossad asset much earlier than is believed to be the case. I don't know how true that is because some of these people were already sketchy characters. Anyways, but I think a lot of these people were. I'm not giving a compelling answer because I think it's very complicated. I'm not sure what is established, and I also hesitate to just give a strong case without it. But he clearly, his story as is doesn't make sense. And so for that reason, I believe he was protected. I believe he became an asset. He would have been targeted. Was he an agent? I don't believe so. I think he was too all over the place. But I don't know. Frost knows more about.
I don't know. I think the intelligence world's way murkier than people think. And, like we have the Five Eyes, right? It's like we share intelligence with all these countries. They run stuff together. They run assets together. So I think the idea that he was just doing whatever he wanted around the U.S. is this Israeli pawn, I think is certainly more complicated than that.
It's not that simple, for sure. And also, we're living in this world now where everyone's just like the Jews.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, they're trying to say OJ didn't do it and the Jews did it. Yes. I mean, like we are at that point in the simulation, and it's actually like.
Yeah.
It's so beyond the pale, and it's such a problem. Like, we have to be able to talk about things objectively. We have to be able to talk about governments objectively, and that also includes, like, when the current Israeli government calls any criticism of them anti-Semitism, fuck you.
Right.
Fuck you. That's bullshit. Yeah. Like, because, by the way, we talked about you turn people into what you don't want them to be.
Totally.
That's exactly how it happens. Totally. You are creating the next generation of people who will legitimately be anti-Semitic, whatever, insert every ism here, and that's a huge problem that needs to be said. But if you're going to talk about things that maybe Israel allegedly did, you also have to look, I mean, not yourself, but you have to look in the mirror of your own countries, because the fact of the matter is, it is a fucked up world out there. It is especially fucked up in the intelligence world. I completely agree with you, Max. It is way murkier than people think, especially when they come to very simplified solutions on things. There's all kinds of double, triple, and quadruple work that goes on. But unfortunately, these guys are constant, and across all these different agencies are constantly weighing, upside, downside. And if the upside can outweigh the downside, it doesn't matter what that downside is. I'm not agreeing with this, by the way. I'm just saying this is how they think.
Yeah.
So if you don't think that your favorite government is doing some fucked up things, a la like what this Epstein thing was, you're wrong. Well, they do it.
I mean, this is the thing that one of the things that drives me crazy when you just look at the media environment right now. There's this kind of stream of like this. I'd say like the Reddit history types who they're like, oh, everything, like a lot of it boils down to everything America does is bad. America's of course done a lot of bad stuff.
Yeah.
Spy agencies, all the military, whatever. So has every other government with power has abused it. Mm-hmm. So if you want to be like, yeah, America's so bad, and not a lot. This kind of, I don't want to simplify it too much, but some people do say this, that Russia's good. The American government. It's like no, just read anything about this stuff. The issue is power, and especially power and secrecy. And now I understand why we need intelligence agencies. Like they exist for a reason, but there's also, you have to have checks and balances. I mean, for a long time, the CIA was doing whatever. I mean, they were allowed to do stuff on American soil, right? And now technically they're not allowed to do it, but whatever.
Oh, they break that rule all the time.
They do. But I mean, in the early, I mean, when they in the 50s, 60s, was it the church? What was the
church committee in 1974 or something?
I mean, this stuff had to come out first. People didn't realize at all what was going on. And then it came out.
What happened to Church, by the way?
Was he killed?
He lost his next election.
Oh.
A lot of money came in against him.
There you go. But to me, it's like the issue here, it's like, yeah, it's incentives. I mean, you see this time and time again with all these different things, whether it's DC, in the media, you look at it, everyone's like, oh, it's like all these journalists are like, either on the right, like right-wing propagandists, or like woke, J school grads on like the left. But it's incentives in place that lead to this kind of stuff. That it's like, I mean, realistically, what you have in the media right now is, if you're Fox News, your business strategy is to corner the right of the market, and if you're MSNBC, it's to corner the left of the market.
What is it now?
MS
Now.
What a horrible name.
Oof.
What do we want?
But yeah, it comes down to incentives. It comes down to what's your incentive. I mean, we all know here, like there's certain things that we could go into certain topics and say certain things, rack up views, make a bunch of money, and it just then it comes down to your own incentive structure.
That's why I don't trust people who become runaway narrative trains. If they do that, like I respect that about you, Joe. Like where you accept nuance, and I'm also wondering, some people have again had their brains broken by the establishment and the expert class that lied repeatedly, was wrong about so much. I mean, how many people we talked about, like the gutting in the Rust Belt? I wasn't around for the 80s and 90s. My guess is there wasn't a lot of research or thought leadership that suggested that we're about to utterly devastate the middle of the country and create a void that only substances and despair could fill. And I doubt there were a lot of people saying that. COVID. Do you want to look at the batting average of the expert class in terms of from outdoor transmission to the effectiveness of cloth masks, to the effectiveness of the vaccine, to the effectiveness of lockdown, to the costs, socioeconomic costs for minority communities, to the cost for kids? If you want to look down at that box score, that would be a great box score to run down. Even ivermectin for Rogan. So like you see all these different areas where the expert class is wrong again and again and again. Mm-hmm. Foreign policy-wise, there have been disasters that were initially touted to be obvious. So you have this convergence of all these things that have broken people's brains. But then I'm also like, if you're hyper cynical about everyone and everything and power and this and that, Are you not ever a little cynical about some of the people who are making a fortune off of perpetuating some of these conspiracies or who write books and become big people? Like, there are grifters in this alt media space who undermine.
No, you will not say that in my studio.
Not say that.
You mean that there's people spouting bullshit not from the mainstream?
And it's tempting because you see.
Oh yeah.
And it's also fun, dude. It's kind of fun to just go off on like, damn, dude, that's crazy. But and I still do it sometimes. So I just think you know, I remember this Conan O'Brien.
Get this guy a Wawa hoagie and a fucking Mad Dog.
I go back between two things where Conan O'Brien once had a line, he said, where he thought at the top it's way more boring than people think. Whenever I get to know semi or mostly or entirely credible people who've been in high levels of power, have seen it, I often get that sense. But then I also go to the other side of like, if you think about great scandals or frauds or corruption, they go on for a long period of time. I'll give you an example. I'm a big Jordan guy, so I will just admit that up front. But like LeBron, not the country Jordan, I know we've been talking about foreign policy. An example of something about like LeBron, I've talked to someone who played with him in LA, and I've heard this more and more since then, that he is a serial cheater. Now, that hasn't been a narrative in the mainstream, but people who know that. So it goes on and on and on and on, and he does an NDA thing and this and that. But it's like, that's the kind of story that you could only get through like some fringe reporting, if that makes sense. And similarly, people, Harry, whatever his name, Markopolis, who called out the great financial crisis years before and wrote the letters to the
about Madoff.
SEC about Madoff. Yeah. Or sorry, not the great financial. I mean, he did call out some bullshit there, but he said his returns are statistically impossible.
Yep.
And then you have people who called out the Epstein ring way before. Alex Jones has called out a number of things that have proven to be
Alex
true.
Credit on that.
Yeah. And so all this is to say, like, I go back between these two things of there are so many grifters who just have become like schizophrenic connecting dots. But then there are a lot of crazy things, and I know less of it in the foreign policy realm, but that's an area where I'm like, I don't even know who to trust when it comes to like the Iranian Revolution. Like, where do you go for it?
Thank you guys for checking out this clip. If you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe and hit the like button on this video. It is a huge, huge help. And if you'd like to check out this clip's full podcast episode, that link is in the description below or right here. And finally, you can follow me on Instagram and X by using the links in my description below.